Well, hello. It's time for another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This is the show where I talk about the fountain pens and inks I've been using throughout the week. And yes, it's a special New Year's, well, it's supposed to be New Year's Eve edition, but now it's New Year's Day. I'll get into why later. But I'm here, and you're here to look at some pens. So let's take a look at some pens. If videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. Do you do New Year's resolutions? I don't have too much to say about that, but let us know down in the comments. So let's take a look at some pens. Alright, so these are the pens that I've been using throughout the week. And from left to right, we have Parker Duofold, Omaso Jiva, Parker Vector, Cross Townsend, still has some ink in it, Moonman M700, Kaweco Dia 2, Lamy 2000, a vintage platinum pocket pen, and a Waterman Carène. So let's see how these are writing. As always, I'll be doing my writing samples in this in this Cognitive Surplus notebook. This was supposed to be filmed on December 31st, 2021, but for reasons I'll get into, it wasn't. So it's actually January 1st. (2022). Alright, so the first pen is a Parker Duofold with a citrus check type finish. I think this is a gorgeous pen. It's an international size, so it's a little bit smaller. But this is one of those pens that over the years my channel income purchased for me because I couldn't justify it with what I make. It's got a nice finial. Actually, you can almost, you can almost see the family resemblance with this Parker Duofold, Parker Vector. Maybe. Okay, if you close your eyes, you can see it. Alright, so this is the Parker Duofold. Has a very nice medium nib on it. This is the kind of pen you can use for a long writing session. The ink in it is Ferris wheel press, which in my limited experience with the brand has been a bit of a mixed bag. I do like this one. It's a good yellow. Yellow's a hard ink to use in a fountain pen. This is one that actually works. I had a question about worst inks for my Q&A, and I've got a melon type of ink, and yeah, that's right up there because it's so pale it's unusable. But that's perfectly usable. So not an oblique nib, not a stub nib, but a good, reliable daily writer type of nib in a very attractive package. My next pen, I used to have a viewer who would request either this or I had a Platinum 3776 with a koi finish. They would usually request either this or that one when they didn't see them for a while, so I haven't heard from them. I don't know if they've given up or what, but here it is, my Omaso Jiva, nice bright sunny ink, pen, which does not have a nice bright sunny ink in it. So this is the Omaso Jiva. If you're looking for one now, they cost more than what I paid for them. This has a medium extra flexibile nib. Omaso Jivas are no longer made because the Omas company has gone under. Apparently, what is it? Not Peniter. Is it Peniter? No. Scribo, I think, has taken up some of their manufacturing and trying to do their nibs and things. But yeah, the company Omas is no longer. It's a shame. I enjoyed their pens. There was a time I thought it'd be fun to get one of their Arcocelluloid. Back then I hadn't thought of using channel income to pay for pens, so that was off the table back then, and now price puts them off the table. But anyway, it was never real high on my priority list anyway, because my big interest is in vintage pens more than a pretty finish, and that finish is almost a little too pretty. It's too gaudy. This is my Parker Vector I've mentioned before. It's the Parker Vector that got me on the fountain pen road way back in, I don't know, whatever year it was. I was in 4th grade when I bought my first Parker Vector. This isn't it. This is a new one, but anyway, I've been lately using Parker Vectors to address envelopes because I'll put a very permanent ink in them. So this is a Parker Vector with a medium nib. The ink in it is Atramentis Document Black. I bought a little sample vial of this ink, and I just kind of wanted to play with it. May turn into a video. I've got a couple of other Atramentis black inks that I want to play with also. One's an archival ink, and one is just plain black. So I thought it'd be kind of fun just to compare them, compare their properties and so on. So I may reserve a couple sheets of paper and just play with those and then put it all the video footage together at some much later point. Yeah, you know, as far as on the paper, it really does nothing for me one way or the other. It's a black ink, nothing special. My next pen, I think I published its review this week, or this past, I don't know, recently. Funny thing, I kept saying Porsche, even though it was a Ferrari. I just read an article today about a Porsche. This guy, apparently there's a little bit of a traffic accident, so then this guy uses his Porsche to push the other car off of the street. And I just thought, your Porsche costs more than my house. Must be nice to be able to do that. But I think a little bit of alcohol was involved in that story. This is a cross Townsend with a medium nib. And the ink in it is Sailor Grenade. So we've got a Japanese ink and an American pen. Actually, I believe most cross pens, and this is Gentle Grenade, I believe most cross pens are made in China, and it probably says on the box. It doesn't say on the pen anywhere. But anyway, it's a very well-made pen, and I really like the nib. It's a nice, reliable pen. One of these days, I want to talk about daily writers and workhorses, and this might well make it into one video or the other. And very nice ink that Sailor continues, revives, and discontinues and revives every so often. My next pen might be empty. Come to think of it, I was having trouble with it this morning. So we'll just snork as much ink down to the end as we can and see if we can get one last gasp out of it before I clean it. Because I did use it all this week. That's how it got to that point. So this is the Moonman, which did not impress me when I originally reviewed it. But when I put the new nib in it, the Stipula T-Flex, suddenly it became a much more fun pen. And the ink in it is KWZ Menthol Green. On the whole, this has been a good marriage. The Stipula nib was terrible in the Stipula pen. The Moonman nib was terrible in the Moonman pen. But the Stipula nib in the Moonman pen is a real good combination. Also, by the way, works really well in a Noodler's pen. Better even in a Noodler's pen. So sometimes all you have to do is just switch up the nib and you can turn a pen into a whoa. So I'm pretty happy with this pen. And it is interesting that if it works so well in this pen, why doesn't it work in the Stipula pen? And I can't figure that out. I've switched feeds and everything. Alright, this is a Kaweco Dia 2. This is kind of their classy pen. It's a heavy pen made out of brass. Some people think the nib looks a little undersized, but I don't mind. Of course, I'm used to vintage pens, so that was more common on a vintage pen. Kaweco Dia 2. And it's a broad nib, and the ink in it is Private Reserve. Watch out if you ever put this put Private Reserve inks into an Italian pen. There's a group of people who will attack your channel. But this is a German pen, so I don't think the Italians are as protective of German pens. So Private Reserve Shoreline Gold. Kind of a stubby nib. You'll see that here when I do the cross-hatching more clearly. But I like it. You know, this is one of those pens that every so often it gets in my group that I'm going to sell. And then I'm like, well, I should ink it up one more time just to be sure. And I don't want to sell it. And then I keep it. So I don't ink it up very often, but when I do, it's kind of a nice pen. I, of course, have been writing a lot with my Lamy 2000. Oops. I think that was me, not the pen. I think it's because it was right on the curve of the notebook page. So Lamy 2000 with a fine point nib. The ink in it is Pelikan. Earlier this week, you got to see the very bottle this came out of. 4001 Brilliant Black. Which is just a nice ink for everyday writing. Now when I run out of my huge bottle of this stuff, will I continue with it? I don't know. Part of me wants to switch to Parker Quink Black. Part of me thinks, well, yeah, originally you liked Lamy Black a little better than this one, so I guess I don't know what's going to happen when I run this bottle dry. In any case, that's a problem for probably a few years from now, because I got a lot of this ink. Then, I actually forgot last week when I did my giveaway, which I'll talk about the giveaway here in a few minutes, but this was one of, not this particular one, but a model just like this was one of the ones that was supposed to be listed in the giveaway, and I forgot to list it when I talked. But yes, there is a lucky winner of a vintage Parker pocket pen. Not Parker, sorry, Platinum pocket pen. So this is a Platinum pocket pen. I like this design a lot. I like this a lot better than the Kaweco pocket pens. This has a broad nib. If you want a modern example, Sailor and Platinum quit making these, but Pilot revived theirs, as they call it a Pilot. Depending on your country, they either call it a Pilot Elite or they call it a Pilot E95S. So the ink in this is Private Reserve. Ebony Purple. I'll be honest, the only one of these ebony inks that I've ever tried that I've used, and I've only ever used a sample, was the Ebony Blue. Most of them are just too dark, and you're just like, well, is that black or is it purple? Yeah, when you study it, you do see there's a purple cast to it, but it's definitely subtle. I don't even know if the camera's going to pick it up because I did something goofy with my exposure settings, I think. And my last pen is the Waterman Carène. And mine has a broad nib in it. They don't come with too much size, and it is kind of hard to find a broad one. Mine I found I added later. And in answer to somebody's question, to change out the nib on this, you actually have to change out the whole section. You can't just buy a single nib because it's, glued in place. So what do we got? Waterman Carène, and the ink in it is Diamine. Autumn Oak. And I just misspelled autumn. We'll get that right event. Oh, wow. And I almost misspelled oak as ook. So, that's enough of autumn colors. We gotta get into some winter colors now. So when this one runs empty, I don't know. I've got, is it Writer's Night or Winter's Night? I can't remember. It's a Krishna ink that I like. Both names are evocative just for different reasons. But anyway, very attractive ink in an absolutely beautiful pen. So those are the pens and inks I've been using this week. So those are the pens and inks I've been using this week. I just wanted to start out by apologizing. This was supposed to come out New Year's Eve, and if you heard my behind-the-scenes video earlier this week, you know why it didn't come out New Year's Eve. My voice still isn't 100%, but I'm getting better daily, and I've just been hanging out at home, and so if I have something horrible, it's just been shared with me and... Well, viruses don't travel over video, so you're safe. But yeah, getting better every day. So let's see. For the big news first, I think I did my very first pen giveaway. The threat of the Canadian Mounties crossing the border, arresting me, and imprisoning me in some Canadian gulag in northern Saskatchewan was not enough to keep me away from doing the giveaway this time. So I had 24 entries. Of those 24 entries, one had been to North Dakota on the way to somewhere else. One of the other entries had a wife who was born in North Dakota. That was it. Nobody else had been to North Dakota. Have you been to North Dakota? I mean, I won't say you're missing out if you haven't, but there are good things here. Everybody who entered knew the capital of North Dakota. Since you can look it up, I would hope you'd get that one right. So there were a lot of good things. I said, what's one good thing that I might share on air? A couple of the good things. One of them was that several getting the COVID-19 vaccine. And for some of them, just not getting COVID. And by the way, double vaccinated plus the booster. So, if this happens to be not a nasty cold, but the actual Omicron or something, that's why it was just a cold and not on a ventilator. If it wasn't Omicron, well, I'm still safer. Family members recovering from health issues was a big one. Some of them were quite serious health issues too, which I won't share because I see that as more personal. Some of them talked about making new friends over the past year, which I think is always good. Some talked about new family members, either through marriage or birth. One person talked about a breakfast getting paid forward in a fast food restaurant. So in other words, somebody ahead of the line paid for their breakfast, which I thought was nice. One person talked about their 15-year anniversary, wedding anniversary. Some people talked about marriages in their family. Several mentioned how great it is that this year they were actually able to get together with family because they all had the shot and they were able to get together. Whereas this time last year, nobody was really doing Christmas parties. Some talked about furthering their education. One person was thrilled with a double hip transplant. Replacement, double hip replacement. One person cited their Pelikan M700, something to be thrilled about. Somebody talked about their split system that does heat and air conditioning. And yeah, I can see where that would be nice, especially if you're in a place where you really need that air conditioning. And then some just talked about cooking. And then the one I really liked, I'm going to move my microphone to the side here so I can see my notes. And again, I will save some personal details here. But just being able to help a friend put their affairs in order who only has a few weeks left to live. And I thought, yeah. I mean, it's really sad to face that, but at the same time, you know, what an honor and a privilege to be able to help out a friend that way. So, in other news for the channel, the Q&A is on pause. If you've been following North Dakota's weather this week, not only has the main narrator's voice been missing, it has been bitterly cold. Yesterday, I don't think got above -8 Fahrenheit, which is cold. Today, I think we're rising into the single digits today. I was going to go down to the post office and mail off all my prizes today, and I just said, nope, somebody's voice is still recovering. And let's isolate for a couple days longer if you can. So, I'm still here. Let's see. I am going to do it. One of the things I'm trying to decide is if I want to do 1 or 2 parts. I want to say I have over 30 questions, so I'll have to see if I can consolidate some and whatever. But it's kind of interesting. I'm thinking last year it was a very long video. I'm wondering if I want to break it apart into 2 videos or just one long video and have lots of little, what they call chapters in it, where you can just click on the specific question in the video description. So we'll see. And then, my note there talks about the Porsche thing, but I think I talked about that in the pens. I was going to do a live stream over this break, but thanks, laryngitis. Because probably today is when I would have done it, but I am filming this, and then I'm going to rest my voice again, because I'm not sure how long it's going to stay this good. So, yeah, as I need to be back to full health, because I'm going to be facing teenagers again in a few days. So yeah, that Q&A will be a big thing. But one thing I did accomplish, you see the blue over my shoulder here? That whole corner, kind of between the bookshelf and that, was full of really black cobwebs. Why black cobwebs? Well, because they get full of dust, and then they get really heavy and black. So, yeah, I cleaned all those out. Did a lot of cleaning over the break. I'm not done yet, but it's just amazing the amount of dust on everything, and you know where it just hides. And maybe the dust caused my laryngitis. I don't know. It aggravated it a few times, but nice, just deep cleaning the house. And you know, I've been pretty good about keeping it clutter free since I know there was a time. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 months ago. I mentioned about how this room's kind of a mess. Well, I've been pretty good about keeping it cleaned up since then. Except, no, I haven't, because apparently there was mess hiding, because I've got about 4 trash bags I took out of this room of stuff. So I think it was organized. It didn't look like chaos. But now it actually looks pretty good. I mean, I'm looking over and like this end table is like there's almost nothing on it. My dream is to have all, and it'll never happen, but would be to have all horizontal surfaces that aren't bookshelves be totally clear of stuff. Kind of like in a motel room. That's my fantasy. Never happened, but that's my fantasy world. I just find it very restful and peaceful if it's like that. So, you know, there's always going to be a little clutter in my life, but oh yeah, even that table's not perfect. Oh well. But made a big difference in this room. So, obviously I also didn't record ahead a lot of videos. That was something I was planning to do over this break, but such is life. You'll just have to do that some other time. And, I think I'll be going back to school in a better place up here just because I did take all that time to clean. And so I'm coming to school from a much cleaner home base. Didn't get to the classroom the way I wanted to and clean there, but such is life. We'll get to it. Let's see, a couple other things. One thing I'm realizing, I got to deal with these books. I just have too many books, so got to figure out how to shrink the number of books down. Some of them, I just have to decide, am I going to reread that? Ever? Is it worth keeping as a reference? And, that's a good question, and that's something I'll have to think about. That's usually when I shrink my shelves, that's how I do it. It's like, okay, yes, it was a good book, but will you ever reread it? Okay. So, let's see. Couple other things I wrote here. I have loved having these lights up. It's really hard to record the effect on camera. But at night, with all these lights, because I've got them on this window, across the bookshelf, and then I've got two windows over there that you can't see. I've got them hung there. This room is kind of like it's like it's lit by candles or something. Very cozy and nice. So I'm going to miss that, but I think tomorrow, Sunday, that's all got to come down. It's not special if it's up all the time. So, time for it to come down. I'm reading around my microphone. So the only other thing I just wanted to say, a couple YouTubers in the fountain pen world have just been asking, they've been talking about viewer numbers going down and things, and just asking, has this kind of content reached a saturation point? Are people losing interest? Are there more reviewers? And so we're sharing our viewers more? I don't know the answer to that. I know my numbers have been down a little, but I also know for December especially, I just was struggling to get videos made. So part of that is my fault that my numbers are down. I just don't know. So I'm curious to hear what you think. Maybe the interest has peaked and people are moving on to other things. Part of why I do other content on this channel is if I ever reach that point where I just can't come up with anything about fountain pens, I've got other things to fall back on. So, I don't know. It's just something I was thinking about. And a few reviewers brought it up. I should also mention, I forgot to show it when I was doing my video, so we'll just hold it up here. I was going to show you that I got this as a Christmas present. I was going to keep it anonymous, but he shared it on one of his videos. ChrisRap52 gave me a squirrel pen holder. So expect to see him in some reviews. And one thing I discovered is my desk definitely leans to the left. So I guess if I had to lean left or right, in this house it's better off leaning left. But anyway, I kind of struggled to keep him sitting upright on my desk because it does lean. So I'm going to have to work on that. And it's just a fault of how the desk is made. It's not a reflection on my house or the squirrel. The desk just doesn't have a firm latch in any position except closed. So, because it's a fold-up desk, if you saw my behind-the-scenes video earlier this week. So the only other thing I can think of, people always talk about doing New Year's resolutions, and I don't do New Year's resolutions because I always think, if I see a change I need to make, let's make it now. While, the moment is on me. If I decide, I need to stop drinking. Well, it's August, and why wait until January to start that? Why not start in August if that's an issue? I need to save more money. Well, why wait till August? Just start now. I need to do better with my health. Why wait until, did I say August? Last time I meant January. Why wait till January? Just start now. So I've never been big on New Year's resolutions, but I know for some people it's kind of a mental line in the sand that like, okay, I can do this. But I also know gyms always talk about how they're very crowded in January and then they empty out. So by waiting to January to make that resolution to exercise more, did it really help if you break that resolution? So I guess do what helps you, but I'm curious, do you make New Year's resolutions? And if you make them, do you keep them? I don't want you to share anything personal because it's the internet, but, just generally, do you keep them or do you do New Year's resolutions? Like I said, I do not. When I see something that needs to change in my life, like when I realized how horrible this house had gotten a couple months ago, I said, okay, I'm going to clean it and I'm not going to let it get that way again. And I just kept at it. Yes, I made a big pass through this week and found much I could improve. But I saw it because I'd kept that vow several months ago. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that. So anyway, I wish you a happy new year. I think 2021 was a lot better than 2020, although it didn't start very well. I think the biggest thing for me about 2021 is getting the vaccine. I just remember how free I suddenly felt when that 14 days passed after shot number 2. Why? Because I was able to finally do something instead of just waiting for the virus to strike me. I was able to be proactive and fight the thing. When I got my booster this fall, it wasn't quite the same. It was just adding an extra layer of protection. But, that at 14 days after that second shot, it's like, wow, I've actually done something. And it was just this huge weight I didn't even know I was carrying lifted off my mind. So I can see why all those people who talked about the shot or not getting the virus was a big deal. And I agree. And if this cold that I had was the virus, thank you, vaccine, for making it not be horrible. And if it had nothing to do with the virus, well, still glad I have the vaccine because then I haven't gotten the virus yet. So either way, it's kind of a win. Other than that, I guess I don't have too much to add. I just, there's still some election shenanigans going on, but it's really only by the extremists. I think most people have accepted that, yeah, we know who won, let's move on and try and run a better candidate next time. And here's hoping that the next elections go much nicer without all the vitriol and bad feelings and deception. So anyway, I want to thank you all for watching. Here's wishing you a much better 2022. And we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.